MFA from the Staatsliche Kunstakademie, Stuttgart, Germany. How was that? For my grandmother at the table. Her work has appeared in print and online in U-Journal, Canopic Jar Journal, Nails Magazine, Art on Paper, and many others. Her awards include 2 writing fellowships at Ragdale and a 12-month artist in residency fellowship from the Ministry for Science and Culture in Baden. Okay, so I'm going to stop. But she's also, she's got a lot. She's done a lot, and she's wonderful. And so please welcome Doro.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to the bookstore, and thanks for coming. So the novel, I'm still writing it, and it's about voicelessness in a variety of ways. So what I'll be reading is the protagonist going through treatment for tongue cancer. Laika signs her copy of the medical disclosure form. Have you had any prior testing done on the area being scanned today? Since treatment started, she's had to get a follow-up MRI every 4 weeks. It's always the same receptionist who checks her in, the young man across the desk with a name tag that says Ocean, and he poses the question without looking up. She thinks of Storm, her former student who also always seemed a little aloof and avoided eye contact. The two could be paired. However, when necessary, Ocean can be alert. She has seen him calm down the husband of a woman who suffered an anaphylactic reaction and was being intubated right behind the glass window that separates reception from treatment areas, in view of everyone who was waiting at the time and everyone pretended to look away. Ocean knew how to summon help quickly when, in a chain reaction, the husband himself needed ER attention for the sudden onset of chest pain. After handing Laika more paperwork, he goes back to reading poetry from pastel-colored paperbacks, bound so tightly they barely open at all. Proud to be a patient who is no bother and who doesn't ask unnecessary questions, she heads next door unaccompanied and goes straight to the wooden cabinet where S and L-sized gowns, stacked into mint green towers, gently lean into one another. The pile with the larger sizes is always shorter in height, and the S gowns slide over to make up for the difference. No one needs to tell her that these frocks open in the back, not in the front, and she never returns to the waiting area to complain when every single one of the tie strings is missing. The patient intake form can be filled out in seconds. Rather than checking off each box individually, Laika draws one single line, lets it droop through the no column from the top of the page down to the bottom, an approach that saves time because she too wants to read while she's there. Are you claustrophobic? Pregnant? Were you ever exposed to metal splinters? Are you allergic to gadolinium? Do you have tattoos? Wear cochlear implants? Are there aneurysm clips in your body? A pacemaker? No. A thin thread drools from box to box. Do you wear permanent makeup or a medication patch? An artificial eye, or is there a small camera from a small bowel endoscopy left in your intestines? Do you have a neurostimulator, a biostimulator, a drug pump implant? No. Louder? The questionnaire brings back memories of past summer vacations, specifically the moment when she fills out the I-94W visa waiver, issued not by the American College of Radiology, but by the Department of Homeland Security, and distributed not by nurses, but by flight attendants. It's an oblong piece of green paper handed to passengers halfway into their voyage right above Greenland, if you travel as a green card holder from Europe to Chicago. It's around the same time that she eats her blood pudding sandwich, which her best friend in Frankfurt always prepares on the morning of departure with extra mustard. Once that's eaten, they've reached North American airspace, and she unequivocally has to say goodbye to home for another year. In the past, were you ever registered as a member of a communist organization? Did you take part in persecutions committed by the Nazi Party and its allies? Have you ever engaged in espionage and/or genocide? Are you seeking to engage in criminal or immoral activities? E.g., are you planning to abduct an American child? Have you been accused of transgressions involving moral turpitude? Turpitude is a foul-smelling word. Given the context of the document, it's also capable of throwing a wrench into a foreigner's journey who wouldn't even necessarily consider endangering the welfare of a U.S. toddler, but could accidentally check yes for a lack of familiarity with the term, one Laika has only ever encountered on overseas flights. On this form, too, she marks nothing but no, but does so as neatly as is possible on a bumpy plane, gives each box its own and decisive X, because drawing one single line on an official document like this one is akin to drawing ire. She knows the consequences for marking yes behind any of the questions on the list above. For example, the first one regarding political affiliations. Her father once did. He, someone who had seamlessly transitioned from a 16-year-old Nazi soldier to a 17-year-old communist during Germany's World War II period in the Soviet-occupied Eastern Zone, because everyone else around him did too. When he came to visit her and Border Control in Chicago reviewed his form, they almost sent him back home on the next flight. He had, however, marked no for all the other questions, including number 2, did you take part in persecution? And all her life, she's been hoping he spoke the truth. Laika's political interests are of no concern to hospital staff. Everyone gets scanned at the same dosage. The MRI machine beats in a benign resting pulse when she climbs onto the cot in front of it. She's the last patient of the day, but even then, rules are strict. The technician goes down her own laundry list and checks off everything she's obligated to say at this point, which are mainly words of reassurance regarding the safety of the procedure and how closely patients are being observed during the entire session. A handwritten tag on the breast pocket identifies her as Minerva, and the two recognize each other from previous scans. Laika can tell Minerva is tempted to skip over some of the sub-questions, but isn't allowed to. Do you have a prosthetic limb, an artificial hip, a penile implant, any type of stent, filter, tissue expander, coil, pin, rod, screw, nail, plate, or wire in your body? To help usher Minerva on so they both can get home, Laika shakes her head left to right, back and forth in one continuous line, and in a beat about half the speed of the machine. What Minerva calls to her attention is exactly what she wants this exam to accomplish. High-quality images can only be obtained if you remain perfectly still and follow the breath-holding instructions. If you are anxious, confused, or in severe pain, you may find it difficult to lie still during the next 90 minutes of image taking. Please let us know now. Laika is confused, but not about this procedure and not in ways that will keep her from lying perfectly still, arms raised above the head, her preferred MO when facing certain types of danger, where instead of kicking and fighting, she stops moving, plays dead, which sometimes works in her favor, but not always. It is in her best interest that the radiologists who are currently at home having dinner will get to interpret the highest quality scans when they return to work in the morning. She wants them to identify each aberrant cell that raises its ugly head and divides its nucleus for the umpteenth time. There has to be a whole cluster of them, at least 1,000 or more for any imaging device currently on the market, to visualize a tumor beyond reasonable doubt. Ideally, Laika wants the radiologist to capture deviation before a cell has made its final decision, when it's still unsure whether it should play by the rules or keep multiplying. And lying still for a mere 90 minutes is better than lying still for good. In a felted coffin, for example, handmade of 100% boiled sheep's wool by artisans in the west of England, dyed brown in a syrupy walnut shell brew, and not polluting the environment any further than she already had, which is the main selling point for this type of receptacle on the company's website. Laika has Googled burial options. More than a coffin, the product looks like a guitar case, and while she's not a musician, she felt drawn to its texture as much as one is to gauge from a few pixelated images, substituting poorly for the feel and the smell of animal hair. Both box and content will eventually disintegrate, turn into compost, and then vermin habitat, progress into birdsong, and from there on into cat food.
Oh.